All right, if we could kindly all just find our seats, please. A couple of people still entering the venue. If you wouldn't mind just grabbing a seat, make yourselves at home. What an exciting afternoon / evening this is going to be. Good afternoon, Molweni, goeiemiddag. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for clearing time out of what we know to be incredibly busy schedules to be with us today. My name's Aidan Thomas. It's my job. You know, normally at other events I say my name and people clap, but I see COVID is I'm nobody's vague afterthought. I see COVID has changed the rules of engagement. So let's try this again. My name is Aidan Thomas. Tough crowd, people. Tough crowd. It's my job this afternoon to hold your hand, to guide you through a series of speakers, of engagements, of announcers, as we look back and, well, as we look forward. You know, this AGM is usually one of the calendar highlights. It's a standing room only event. It's filled to the back of the venue, to the rafters in some cases. This year, though, 2020 being what it is, and the world being what it is, we've needed to adapt, and that's why we find ourselves in the position that we're in. You don't need me as an outsider looking in on your sector to say tourism has borne the brunt of the worldwide lockdown. All plans have needed to change and have adapted, and that's the situation we find ourselves in at the moment. So this year for the AGM, it's the first of its type. It's a hybrid event. We, as you might have detected, we've got a small audience who've joined us, a small live audience, but then also, so we're at the Century City Conference Center. We're live streaming to 2 other venues, so it's a very, very special good afternoon to Forum de Kasi Culture out in Khayelitsha. A very good afternoon to you, and then also Jonkershuis at Groot Constantia. A massive welcome. And then everybody watching on devices, be they at home, at the office, at a coffee shop, just wherever it is you're consuming this, on a mobile phone, on a tablet, on a laptop. Maybe you've got the kind of setup at home where you're watching it on your TV. We'll try and get done before the soaps come on, I guarantee you. We'll try and get this thing sorted so that other stuff can end up on your TV screen. But a massive, massive welcome to everybody. And I think just a collective well done to everybody for still being standing. You know, it's been a rough year, and the fact that we still are standing as individuals, as a fraternity, as an industry, as a city, as a country, just bears testament to what we are hoping will be resilience going forward. So I think a massive round of applause for yourselves, wherever you are. Khayelitsha, Groot Constantia at home, or with us at the live event. I think it's just incredible that we can still gather, that we still are able to make plans and try and map a path out of what we find ourselves in at the moment. So the theme for today, for this afternoon, this evening, is Back to the Future. And while we take a look at the year that was, and sadly we've got to look at the year that was, and perhaps that still is happening, there's some hard lessons that we've learned along the way. We've, though, been forced to react and to plan for the next normal, perhaps not the new normal, but the next normal. And in tourism, you know, the buzzword there is being forced to reimagine the world. Reinventing is another buzz phrase that's being used. Innovating the various businesses linked to hospitality and tourism to stay relevant. That one-size-fits-all approach not going to work anymore, both from a domestic and global perspective. Restrictions on travel, I mean, it's still a very real issue. So it's important to take a step back and maybe to start at the beginning again. And perhaps this event will give us pause to do just that. We've even learned this year more about what is necessary in our business with the invaluable benefit of reducing the pace. So maybe it was just a chance to breathe for a bit and then to move along. And now we need to focus on the future. This tourism industry needs to rebound. It needs, of course, to bounce back. And how we collectively rebuild the industry and how we innovate businesses for the travelers of the near future and the distant future. Is it a different face to travel? This is what we're hoping to find out. We need to rebuild communities, rebuild offerings, and innovate to build better lives for all. We'd love for you to be part of the conversation, not just those at the live event or at the 2 streaming events, but wherever you are at home, you can pose your questions. You can be part of a relevant conversation. So on that virtual platform, as we make our way through the afternoon, please just be part of it. And if you're not following Cape Town Tourism already, on Twitter, at Cape Town Tourism, and then please don't forget to use the hashtag CTTAGM for Cape Town Tourism AGM when you do all of your tweets. Those in the venue, there's a simple password if you want to connect to the venue Wi-Fi. Nobody's got money for data anymore. Use the Wi-Fi. The password, quite simply, is Cape Town Tourism. All lowercase if you want, or capitals as you see fit. Your mobile phones, if you wouldn't mind, please switching them to silent, but please use them to engage, use them to take pictures and to share this experience with your networks and all of your followers. If you do need the bathroom in the live venue, it's out these doors to my left down the corridor on the left-hand side. If you're at home, I'd like to think you know where your toilet is. You don't need me to explain that to you. And I'm sure at the various venues that you're gathering at, they would have explained that to you. Okay, so we've got the rules out the way. Let's get the event underway. The first person I'd like to call forward, and tourism falls very squarely within his ambit of responsibility. He's the mayoral committee member for asset management and economic opportunities. I'm going to ask you please to give a warm welcome as he makes his way forward, Alderman James Vos.
Thank you very much, Aidan, and good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to address you today, and my sincere thanks and appreciation to Brett, our board chair, and Enver, our CEO, for their unwavering support. We all know that tourism is very close to my heart because of its massive potential to support and create jobs and build a thriving economy. And so today I will focus on 3 things: responsible and community-based tourism, cruise and aviation as modes of transport, and the strategic intent behind our 6-pillar strategy. We are here because we know that the tourism industry makes the world go round, but now the world has been turned upside down by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so at the beginning of this pandemic, I established the Tourism Task Team to deal with the effects of the lockdown measures, to develop our bounce back strategy, and to provide input on my bespoke submissions to national government, motivating for the reopening of business and leisure travel to get businesses back to work. So together with my department and Cape Town Tourism as our official destination marketing organization, we will continue to lobby for the full reopening of travel so that we can get on with the business of tourism, because the visitors' economy is everyone's business. So for me, the 3 pillars of responsible tourism you see behind me translate into responsible pricing, responsible places, and responsible practices. Because if we can get these things right, we can diversify tourism products, boost cultural experiences and community involvement, and therefore drive demand, which will lead to jobs and social upliftment. Cape Town's vast cultural diversity is something to be proud of, and it must be celebrated. Community-based tourism gives us an opportunity to do this, and it sets us apart from any other destination and city in South Africa and globally. The Kailicha curated routes is a good example of what we can achieve through collaboration. Now, to get this exciting product up and running, we partnered with tourism operators in the area, taking our knowledge of what is expected by international visitors and assisting operators to craft a tourism product that showcases their community in a manner that is authentic. So my plan is to push community-based tourism opportunities to all corners of the city by ensuring visitor comfort, improving and diversifying products and experiences, stimulating demand, supporting and involving communities so that they can benefit, and planning for growth. Now, cruise and aviation are 2 vital components of this growth. The ease of travel through direct flights is key to attracting visitors. And that is why it is equally important to get our aviation sector back in the air. By boosting direct flights and expanding current routes, we create more efficient connections between Cape Town and our existing and emerging key source markets. More connections create more jobs, and it delivers trade and tourism opportunities. And this is why the city has renewed funding of the successful Cape Town Air Access Initiative. We also fund the Convention Bureau, and together with my team, we engage with key industry partners to secure more meetings, incentive travel, conferences, and event bookings. And through our delegate boosting program, we encourage delegates to stay longer, experience our amazing city, and of course, spend lots of money. Our internationally acclaimed airport is another key feature in our travel and tourism offer, and it is the gateway to our city. And I'm very pleased that flights to Cape Town are steadily increasing and just in time for our peak season. Mango, FlySaf Air, Airlink, and Chem Air have all resumed domestic flights. And by the end of October, 10 international airlines, including Qatar, Emirates, KLM, BA, and Turkish Airlines, will be running at least 50 flights per week from various cities direct to Cape Town. We are bouncing back. And last year, I was personally in New York to meet with United Airlines. And again, I'll be playing my part, meet with airlines and stakeholders in key source markets to secure new routes and expansions. Another opportunity to bring visitors to our city is through cruise tourism, which was poised for significant growth pre-COVID. We were expecting roughly 170,000 passengers and 41,000 crew members for the 2020-21 season. But I must say that the future is looking better with great demand. Certain cruise liners are already fully booked for the 2022-23 season. Here in Cape Town, we can expect cruises to our city to pick up from next year and to restore to 2019 levels within 2 years. The construction of a dedicated cruise terminal funded by the V&A Waterfront has proven to be a worthwhile venture and was showing a massive return on investment, and I'm confident it will do so again. My team and I are in discussions with key stakeholders to further develop and grow this niche market for our city. By getting our sky and sea transport routes back to full operation, we can get our tourism sector and the related industries back to business. So for us to create the demand needed for our tourism ecosystem to propel, we need to remind people of why Cape Town is a destination of choice for travelers. And so a cornerstone of our bounce back strategy is our marketing and communications approach to reimagine and reignite visitor demand and position Cape Town as the premier destination to visit, live, work, study, play, and invest. And our six-pillar strategy is the blueprint going forward to translate tourism travel dreams into reality, which will mean conversion and bookings for our entire tourism ecosystem, including accommodation, transportation, attractions, restaurants, and other entertainment establishments. Our new international campaign also capitalizes on all we have to offer, from our natural beauty to being one of the best places for tech startups, to having some of the best educational institutions on the African continent and globally. We really do have it all, and the rest of the world must know it. The teaser video that will start shortly captures that Cape Town really does have it all, no matter what you're looking for. And so with these strategies and campaigns, my hope and mission is to make our tourism sector strong, sustainable, responsible, and inclusive. So, as Doc Brown from Back to the Future once said, your future hasn't been written yet. No one's has. Your future is whatever you make it, so make it a good one. Thank you very much.
Was that now for me or for the video? What happened there now? It was just a moment, felt like it needed a round of applause. Thanks there to Alderman James Force. So on to the next of our speakers. And if you've just logged on and if you've just tuned in, it's the AGM of Cape Town Tourism, the annual general meeting. There are a few people that we'd like you to journey with along the way, each of whom has a particular message about where tourism is at the moment, but more importantly, where it's headed. You know, it's ultimately about the bounce back and where things are going to end up in the future. And that's the overriding emphasis of what we have going here today. The next person we'd like to call forward is the board chairperson of Cape Town Tourism. Now, his passion for tourism combined with his years of experience across many tourism-related businesses under the Tebe Tourism Group, as well as past tenure on the board as chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee, made him an asset and continue to make him an asset to Cape Town Tourism and the achieving of its goals. He personally is committed to establishing Cape Town is the #1 city to visit worldwide, and this is a goal he believes we can achieve by working closely with the city of Cape Town, and I think that's been referenced by Alderman Force. Excited is the chairperson by the strategic direction of Cape Town Tourism, and he wants to be a contributor in achieving all of its set goals, even under these very trying circumstances. It gives me great pleasure at this point to call forward board chairperson. He's the next person to address us, Brett Hendricks.
Good afternoon, members, partners, colleagues, friends in tourism. Special welcome to Alderman James Force of the City of Cape Town, and also to our guests at our remote locations in Khayelitsha and Groot Constantia. When I was elected chairman of Cape Town Tourism Board in November last year, I really started thinking about this moment in terms of the message I wanted to convey, which is going to be all around what we as Cape Town Tourism had achieved against our 2020 strategy. And all thanks to germs, as my 3-year-old refers to these days, I find myself having to rethink the message I'll convey to you all today. Firstly, I'm not going to focus on the statistics. It's depressing, to say the least, and pretty much shows us the impact of COVID-19. We must remember, first and foremost, that COVID-19 is a global health crisis that has affected us all. The past year has probably been the most challenging for all of us, especially for the tourism industry. We have previously dealt with having to recover from the infamous Day Zero water crisis, increased negativity around crime and safety against our tourists and member businesses. And despite our country's anemic economy, we still kept marching forward and looking to grow this amazing sector. But this global pandemic has made previous challenges seem insignificant, to say the least. And then I want to take this opportunity on behalf of Cape Town Tourism to extend our sincere condolences to our members and friends in tourism and their families who have lost loved ones due to COVID-19. Our prayers and thoughts are with you all. For those who battle the virus and beat it, God bless you. While the virus is still with us, we continue to remain vigilant and follow the health protocols. Our thoughts also go out to the many businesses who closed their doors, the jobs lost in our sector, and I said I didn't want to talk about stats, but the numbers quoted as high as 90,000, and the families impacted on emotional and a financial level. The last few months has been tough, and we continue to see the impact. And for those of us who still have jobs with a reduced income, we are grateful. We continue to work hard as we start the recovery of our sector to grow it again. While COVID-19 has brought much doom and gloom, and so much negativity, we tend not to see and celebrate the positives. But our dams are full, and we need to be thankful for that. We have managed COVID-19 and the health crisis well under the circumstances when we compare ourselves to other countries around the world. The Jerusalem dance, and how beautifully and proudly South African was it to see all the videos of the health facilities and businesses taking up the challenge. And our infamous Cape Town tourism famous penguin mascot dancing around as we started opening the sector. And on the funny note, we all became pineapple brewers for the wrong reasons. We became innovative. We saw businesses in tourism having to change their business models and become essential services. Perfect example is the Peninsula Hotel that became a laundry service. We look at the BPO sector where we found jobs being created through tourism or using tourism staff. But the reality for our industry is that we find ourselves in a place where we don't know what is going to happen in the next few weeks, never mind the next few months or years. We hear about the phrase, the next normal, but what does that mean? Will our industry be able to survive the crisis? Will people still want to travel for leisure? And how long will the recovery of our sector take? All these questions of uncertainty, rightfully so, does not give us much hope. However, it also challenges us to rethink the future of tourism and how we collectively will operate. Why not look at this opportunity as a restart of our sector, where we have the opportunity to correct the mistakes of the past? Do we continue to invest in growing international tourism at the expense of the domestic market? Do we continue to run our business on this model? Do we use this opportunity to grow domestic tourism? Because the reality right now is that the only market who can support our industry are our locals. So as we look to rebuild our sector, we need to deal with these questions, because at the end of the day, we want to build a robust strategy for the next 10 years, which should include the recovery. And then this word, inclusivity, which in all my time in tourism, we have not managed to get right. Our sector still remains untransformed in all respects. And we have the opportunity now to get this right. Tourism cannot be for the benefit only of a few, where the value chain is dominated and controlled by big business. We need to include small business from all areas in our city. A township tour should not be included on the back page of a brochure. It should be part of a sustainable growth plan that gets the same exposure and visitors like the main tourist attractions in our city. But it will require hard work and commitment from us all. We all know that tourism creates employment, and while our sector, we have done well in that regard, we have gone backwards due to COVID-19. I believe that when we talk about inclusivity, we also need to look at our surrounding communities, where every day is a struggle to survive. These communities have been suffering before lockdown, and it has just become worse. We have seen the impact of lockdown on these communities, especially with respect to alcohol and the violent effect on women and children. When I say it has become worse for these communities, I'm speaking about the fact that when we speak about job losses, these are the communities that have felt it the most. And in the end, this leads to increased crime and poverty. So while we're talking about the impact of COVID-19, we need to be aware of a much bigger issue. While crime has always been there, it is getting worse and will continue to. Whether our visitors are local or international, they want to feel safe. We can point fingers at our government and SAPs, however, that is not the solution. If we as a sector don't take this seriously, we won't have a tourism in the future. I believe that tourism can play a vital role in building communities. However, as part of the inclusivity strategy, we need the support of all role players in the private and public space. I have no doubt that as a sector we will bounce back, as we have done so many times before. However, we need to rethink, reimagine, re-innovate, reposition, and repurpose tourism for the recovery and growth. That in the future, we'll be able to withstand the impact of future pandemics or global shutdown events. The road will be long, but as long as we keep the end goal in mind, we will be fine. Like our theme today, Back to the Future, we need to focus on how we will rebuild our industry for the future traveler. In closing, I would like to acknowledge Alderman James Voss and the City of Cape Town officials for their collaboration and professional support during this year. I would also like to acknowledge my fellow board members for your support and guidance in driving us forward during such a tough time. To Enver and your exec team and your amazing staff, on behalf of the board and the members, I'd just like to thank you for your leadership and guidance of taking Cape Town tourism through the storm and on the road to recovery. I would also like to wish our departing board members, Alushka and Wahida, all the best going forward, and thank you immensely for your contribution during your terms. To the newly elected board members, welcome, and I'm looking forward to working with you as together we get this tourism sector buzzing again. Thank you.
Thanks there to Brett Hendricks, who is the chairperson of Cape Town Tourism. I don't think he could have imagined himself to be in quite this position a year ago when he assumed the role of chairperson, but such a lot has happened in the almost 12 months since those elections took place. He made mention of new board members. You haven't missed the announcement. They'll be unveiled in a little bit, but we'll get to that in just a while. So he did a fantastic job of summarizing where things are. He did a very good job of outlining some of the challenges that this sector, that this city and its tourism offering will have to face going forward. What he didn't do and what he sidestepped perfectly was that horrific set of numbers that 2020 has brought about. It has not made for pleasant reading in anybody's book. But that task of breaking down the horror story that is 2020 numbers and statistics is left to our next speaker, whose past few years of working life have been spent at the V&A waterfront, holding numerous positions in asset management, specifically in retail leasing and hotel and residential to let portfolios. Our next speaker is the current chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee. There's a lot of auditing that needs to happen, and there was a lot of risk attached to 2020, so you can imagine very busy portfolio. She's not an accountant by trade, but is more of a tactical thinker, an organized and self-motivated business person with the ability to pay attention to detail while keeping her eye on the big picture, however horrific that picture is. Please, let's welcome somebody who's got the unenviable task of talking to us about numbers linked to tourism in 2020. Lee Thomas, to the stage, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'd like to share our financial report for the period ending 30 June 2020. I'll be sharing 5 slides with you on the financial well-being of Cape Town tourism. This is the 15th consecutive year that Cape Town Tourism has produced a set of fair and appropriately presented financials, which were without exceptions and in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles. Our solvency position at the end of June was strong at a current ratio of 2.22. And with improved controls around our preferential procurement, as well as allocating funds towards both supplier and enterprise development, our BEEE level has encouragingly increased from level 4 to level 3. Having all felt the effect of the water crisis in 2018 and Q1 of 2019, you may recall we reported ending the last financial year with a significant deficit loss of close to 2 million rand. Our focus going into fiscal year 20 was therefore aimed at growing our self-generated income through increasing our membership base and looking for other revenue-generating opportunities, all while delivering the services mandated to CTT by the city, which on a high level is to market Cape Town as a top global destination and to service and support all of our tourism stakeholders as well as all visitors to the city. Fiscal year 2020 started off well, with business on track to meet budget, when on the 5th of March, COVID hit SA shores. At that point, Cape Town Tourism saw a healthy growth in income, with expenses being well maintained. Even though Cape Town Tourism managed to recoup their prior year losses, they still ended the year down against budget. As a non-for-profit organisation, it is important that our members and stakeholders know that there is overall good management of the business and that it is resilient in tough times. The balance sheet illustrates this position, even with a slightly softer solvency position on last year, which is due to a higher proportionate increase in liabilities compared to our assets. Moving on to our budget for 2021, the only thing at the moment that is certain in the world is uncertainty. I'm sure you'll all agree to prepare a 12-month budget right now is not done without a lot of challenge and guesswork. Our best view going forward is therefore what you see here. Income for the year will be made up of grant income from the city and a prudent view on self-generated income. There will be a strong focus on cost containment and cash flow management, with the objective of breaking even at the end of June 2021. This budget is reviewed every quarter, with any reforecasting forming part of a different parallel COVID budget to allow us to best assess our position as we continue to navigate the crisis with no tangible end in sight. It's in times such as these where we've been forced to appreciate the small things in life. And we would therefore like to announce that Cape Town Tourism will not be increasing membership fees in 2021. So in closing, I would personally like to thank my fellow ARCO committee members, Brett and Joe, and Resolve Secretarial Services, Dominique and Nicole, for their support for this work in these trying times. And last but not least, Ascar and his finance team at CTT for their endless patience in indulging me with all my questions and queries. Stay well, stay healthy, and thank you.
Well, thanks there to Lee. So, somebody's got to steer the ship. And right now, it's very turbulent seas that the ship happens to find itself on. So the next person we'd like to call forward as part of the AGM of Cape Town Tourism, and once again to people who might just have logged into the feed, thanks for joining us. There'll be an opportunity to pose some questions. We'll have a bit of a panel discussion in a moment. So perhaps in what you've heard, you've got some questions, some comments, some observations. You can start priming those in the meanwhile, and then just pop them onto that virtual platform, or maybe even share them on Twitter at Cape Town Tourism. Remember, the hashtag for this event is CTTAGM. So Cape Town Tourism AGM, if you wouldn't mind please using that hashtag. So back to 2010, a passion-driven career change saw Indra Dumini, who these days is the CEO of Cape Town Tourism, join as the Executive Manager of Tourism Services. Well, that role changed in the third quarter of 2013 when he took over as CEO, and has been involved and having worked closely alongside teams that have rolled out several innovations, groundbreaking tourism projects, pioneering the first responsible pricing policy for tourism in Cape Town, conceptualizing the first mobile visitor information vehicle in Africa, for that matter, implementing the first integrated management system in a tourism organization. I mean, just among some of the achievements and some of the innovations that have come during his tenure as CEO. His current focus, though, is to work alongside not only his team but all of the stakeholders and the more than 1,000 signed-up members of Cape Town Tourism, using innovation and agility, almost to work towards the recovery of the destination. And I think that's pretty much what you're gleaning out of today's AGM. It's how do you pioneer a path going forward? This global COVID-19 pandemic has forced everybody to rethink, to repurpose, and to relook. So I'm going to call Enver Dumini now to take a look at the year that was, but also focusing on plans for the future. It's the CEO of Cape Town Tourism, and he's up next.
Thank you very much, Aidan, for that. I was always taught that there's a fine line between an introduction and obituary. Hopefully, I'm not going to be dead after this speech. Good afternoon, everyone. To follow on from the previous speakers, over the next few minutes, I will provide you with a brief overview and reflect on a year that was undoubtedly something that I believed at one stage was pure fiction. However, its true nature challenged all of us in so many unimaginable ways. I am certain that it is a year we all want to put behind us. But before we look ahead, please allow me a few moments to reflect on the last 12 months, which could be the best-selling horror novel of all time. Our destination performance flight on Air Cape Town took off a little bumpy, but 3 quarters into our journey, we were well on our way to cruising altitude, which reflected well in the next 2 graphs. Here we see average passenger arrivals steadily climbing at 3%, accelerating over our traditional high season peaks, and forecasts indicated that arrivals for 2020 were expected to exceed that of 2019. It felt like tourism was going to be upgraded to first class after spending some time in economy class because of day 0. And here the accommodation sector was also showing positive signs of growth in both occupancy and RevPAR. Our first class private cabin experience was just reward for our day 0 delayed flight. However, these first class opportunities did not happen in a vacuum. It was fueled in part by a clear organizational purpose, focused programs, and sustainable partnership between government, our members, our industry stakeholders, and our communities. Let me show you a short video that highlights some of our milestones before lockdown.
Love Cape Town made us feel at home. They made us feel comfortable.
Despite our tourism acceleration and growth in volumes and revenue, our first-class experience and tourism plans had to come in for an emergency landing because of Cyclone Corona, aka COVID-19. We all thought it was going to be a short layover at Lockdown International Airport, and we would be able to make up for lost time as we were so close to our destination. How wrong we were. Our tourism plane, Air Cape Town, was grounded with no clear runway or time for future takeoff. We can see this clearly illustrated in the next set of graphs as both passenger arrivals and accommodation performance crash landed. Even though we saw small spurts of hope in June under lockdown level 3, this was not going to have any significant impact on our tourism recovery. Our research showed that only 5% of South Africans would be willing to travel to Cape Town, with the remaining 95% surveyed very concerned about job security, personal well-being, and other competing demands like education, insurance, and primary debt obligations. Increasing economic pressure and worsening job crises would only prolong our layover at Lockdown International Airport. Our grounding would mean no additional supplies, no salary for our crew, no food for our passengers, and the future of Air Cape Town under real threat of permanent closure. We needed to contain, adjust, and adapt to dealing with Cyclone Corona. We had a choice to make. Our comeback had to be strong, and it had to be united. In partnership with the City of Cape Town and in consultation with global tourism leaders and local captains of industry, we developed our emergency action plan to deal with the Black Swan event and the storm of the century. The plan was driven by 4 future scenarios with clear adaptive strategies, evasive maneuvers, and alternative flight paths to reach our final destination with passengers and crew intact. We saw that the cyclone presented us with a number of unique challenges. On the one hand, we had to care for our crew, comfort our passengers, and make decisions in record time. At the same time, we had to think about the survival and evolution of Air Cape Town after this crisis, through flight paths we called reignite and reimagine, as opposed to just respond. Let me play a short clip highlighting some of the interventions our crew, passengers, and even a few celebrities on Air Cape Town took to move us from the airport apron to the runway. These challenges also bring opportunities, as reflected in our bounce back plan, which moves our focus from containment towards recovery via adjustment and adaptive maneuvers. We are being called upon to act differently with our people and society, which entails a broader emotional and human dimension to doing business now and into the future. There are many enduring aspects of supporting and leading our tourism recovery, but we see our new roles and enhanced programs changing in the following ways. During this crisis, my team has been running on adrenaline, and that is not sustainable. But recent months have challenged some of the assumptions around how fast we can move as an organization. As we prepare for takeoff, we will need to embrace and adapt to technology, especially as we transfer into online cloud services. We will endeavor to retain our clean governance and inclusivity agenda through our unqualified audits and BEE and employment equity scorecards in equal measure. To deliver on our recovery promise, we will need to find partners to share the heavy cargo load, and we will need to explore other sources of revenue to bolster our very limited coffers. Just like a tail on a plane, our planned programs of destination management and industry support provide stability and control during these turbulent times. We have developed a transformational model that promotes inclusive tourism in underserved communities, giving these neighborhoods the opportunity to develop into viable tourism destinations in their own right. Our members will receive value-added benefits through increased member activations, engagements, and promotional opportunities without any increases in fees. In partnership with the City of Cape Town, along with global companies like Amazon and WebHelp, we will explore further opportunities to reskill unemployed members into the growing BPO sector. This is a true example of providing hope from tourism where there was none before. When we carry the Love Cape Town brand with pride on our airplane's tail and wings, it conveys our destination promise that Cape Town is a culturally rich and inclusive African city in the heart of nature, filled with unique and diverse experiences and people with great warmth, but even greater smiles. No front teeth required. Our brand promise will be marketed domestically and globally through our integrated and targeted promotion campaigns, travel trade network, digital platforms, and amplified communications programs. Destination intelligence and research will lead us in making the right moves at the right time. We may have limited resources, but we are blessed with unlimited and unwavering commitment from the entire Air Cape Town crew, who I would like to thank for their die-hard efforts over the last 12 months and counting. I want to encourage them to remain steadfast, brave, and true as we expect more choppy weather ahead. But I am confident in our abilities to make a meaningful difference for the benefit of all Cape Townians through tourism. As a team, an industry, and a city, we have the fortitude and resilience to recover from the COVID-19 misfortune. In closing, to recover will remain a real-time balancing act between destination management and destination marketing. We cannot do this alone. We will need you, our colleagues, our members, our partners, our city government, and our communities to adapt to a forever changed world. And while these changes have been brought on by the crisis, they have become lasting shifts that will govern a next way of tourism. Even though we are trying to reflect on the past in order to plan for a better future, the decisions and actions we take right here, right now, will shape our tomorrow forever. Thank you.
All right, I think a very solid message there from Enver Duveni, the CEO of Cape Town Tourism, helping to navigate an entire industry through perhaps just the worst bit of turbulence it's ever encountered. Let's change the focus a little bit. Instead of hearing from people one at a time, we've got a selection of panelists that I'm going to call to the front, some of whom you might have heard a bit earlier, some that we'll introduce for the purposes of this event for the first time, each of whom either has a vested interest or represents an entity which has a vested interest in the tourism sector in this part of the country. So I'm going to call forward the board chairman of Cape Town Tourism, the board chairperson, Brett Hendricks, if you can take up a seat. I'm going to get the MACO member for Asset Management and Economic Opportunities back up here, Alderman James Voss. If I can get the MD, please, for the Table Mountain Aerial Cableway Company, Wahida Parker, if she can take up one of the seats. And then also the GM at the Cape Town International Convention Center, Tracy Mkhize, if she wouldn't mind taking up one of the seats. And here's your chance on that virtual platform we were telling you about a little bit earlier, if you wouldn't mind just posing your questions. There's some logical ones that I think I can ask on behalf of the group assembled here at the Century City Conference Center, but there might be some key observations, some burning questions that okay. Musical chairs, all right, didn't like that one. Fantastic. The one at the end is mine, so I'm going to make my way there in a second. So I'll get the ball rolling, but let's see which other questions come through on the virtual platform in just a little bit. And maybe, Wahida, good afternoon. Let's start with you. Part of rebuilding our tourism offering is to entice people back to iconic landmarks and have them part of Cape Town only experiences that you can only get in a city. Table Mountain and the Aerial Cableway Company have kind of been left to their own devices for 90 years, and then suddenly you get shut down by a virus. Talk to me about your bounce back plan. I know that there's a massive campaign at the moment to get people back, particularly locals, to use the cableway and to get them back in the mountain.
Thanks, Aiden. Sometimes I think of Cape Town as a beautiful woman whose self-confidence has been shattered a little bit. Maybe it's the front teeth, I don't know. But the amazing thing is, when we reflect on how to come back, it's a delicate balancing act, to balance the interest of the company against the interest of our staff, against the interest of the industry. And to find that balance, you require a little bit of magic. And that magic is what happens when we all get together and we agree that the way forward requires collaboration. Now, if I think back to how we restarted our business, it was on the basis of an accident. We were at the office inducting our staff when parents came to us and said, our young children are stuck on top of the mountain in inclement weather. Can you help us? And the light went on. This is an opportunity to start a service to bring down hikers. And that is how we mobilized ourselves into seeing an opportunity that was based not on profit, that was based on helping, and how much that helped us to restart our business in September. But the key message to all of us, and here I'm not speaking of my company, Table Mountain Aerial Cableway Company, I'm speaking about that iconic mountain that is one of the new 7 wonders of nature, that is a completely underutilized asset, in my opinion. Could you think of India promoting itself without using the Taj Mahal? Why is it that we are so reticent in showing off this God-given gift that we have? One of the new 7 wonders of nature, and the only one that is slap bang in the middle of a city. You don't need to take a flight and another flight and a bus. It's right here. And this is something I think, as a collective, we need to exploit more as a draw card for international visitors.
All right, and just talk about your bounce back strategy very quickly, if you don't mind, and maybe with the aim of almost providing some guidelines for people who need to kickstart their businesses. Some of the members are either in the venue or watching online. And I know there's a special this month, for instance, R100 return ticket. You know, it's I suppose tough times call for interesting bounce back measures. Just talk us through some of your medium-term plan.
So in August, we started the hiker service that I mentioned earlier. In September, we did something which I think was much needed. We offered every South African a free ticket if they had their birthday during lockdown. I can't imagine what that must have been like. It must have been horrible. No birthday cake, no family, no friends. And we saw close to 16,000 locals take up that offer and come up that mountain. So yes, it did present a challenge when it came to social distancing, because suddenly we had groups of people standing in a queue. It required management. So whilst we did something which we thought was fantastically good, we had to manage the other side of it, is how to protect people. We also launched in September a comeback special. We said if you buy one ticket, we'll give you 2 tickets for free to use for your friends and family. Now, if you combine that with a free birthday ticket, you had groups of 10 people coming up, paying just for 1 ticket, and that was amazing. In October, we started a promotion. As you know, we celebrate our birthday in October, and 100 Rand is the ticket price for anybody who wants to go up the mountain. It is for a return ticket, by the way. People keep asking us that question.
That's cheaper than a Gatsby.
And you know, it's Mondays to Fridays that the special offer runs. We don't exactly know when school holidays are. I get completely confused. But I believe there's some holidays now, and we know that people are going to take up these offers. And we welcome them, and we want them to come back. In November, we are thinking about reimagining what else can we give to locals. And then, of course, December is upon us. But today I noticed an interesting thing. So our specials are only available to somebody who has South African ID. We sold some full-price tickets. So I'm very curious to know whether any flights landed in the last couple of days and whether we've actually had the first trickle of international visitors coming to the mountain. And if that is so, I haven't had the time to verify that, then I think it sends such a strong signal of hope. And that's really what we're all looking for. Local tourism is going to keep us alive. International tourism is going to make sure that we survive well into the future. And that's what we're hopeful of.
Good stuff. Let's go from the mountain down the hill to the convention center. And there you were running the premier events destination on the continent with a forward book looking absolutely fantastic. And in the space of a few short months, it became the biggest pop-up hospital in Africa. Just talk us through how all it, and then you needed to decommission the hospital and go back to a conferencing and events center. Just talk to us about how all of that happened, Tracy.
I'll actually start with a quote that from Professor Salim Abdul Karim, the epidemiologist. One thing that he said, if he was asked if it would be possible to convert the convention center into a hospital in 6 weeks, have 862 beds in 11,000 square meter space, and all those beds have oxygen and have an ICU unit, like a ward, a pharmacy, and run a fully fledged hospital, his answer would have been a definitely no. And he said that was achieved because of effective leadership. And that effective leadership came from a collaboration and partnership from the Western Cape government, the Western Cape Department of Health, the City of Cape Town, and the City ICC. We all came together and worked on this project. I cannot say it was easy. However, it was so fulfilling when everything happened. So we ran that hospital, and I think one thing, as you speak about the decommissioning and all of that, one of the biggest things was the fear of our staff, because we had to provide catering ourselves to the hospital. And the staff were fearful, and at the same time, we could not guarantee them to say, no, everything will be safe, you must come back and work, and that. But through this collaboration and working, the hospital was divided into zones, where there was a green zone where staff and people, like a non-infected area, and you had a red zone where the hospital and patients and the hospital staff would go. And through training, inducting of staff, and that, we were able to have not a single of our staff member contract the disease. And not only at work, but also at home, because of the protocols, and the staff were then aware of what they needed to do, not only at work, but when they get home. So it was an immense project that we embarked on. But however, it was one of the things that we are so proud, because the Western Cape was known as one of the epicenter of the virus, we all know that, but we managed to flatten the curve, and other areas overtook us, yeah. And with all of that, and I think one of the things that you were saying is that now decommissioning, decontaminating, and turning it back into an event space. A lot of clients and event organizers also concerned, and they wanted to get assurance. Is the venue safe? Is the venue COVID-free? And that. And decontamination happened, and we've got a certificate of that decontamination that took place. And we are actually ready, and the whole place from hospital back to an events area, and it shows the versatility and the transformation and what we can do in the space.
All right, so that's worthy. I agree. That is worthy of celebrating as a city. It's an absolutely incredible achievement. But the MICE space, the meetings, incentives, conferences, event space, has effectively been eradicated. It almost needs to be built up from the ground again. What's on the sort of the calendar, big event wise for for the coming months? I mean, is there anything that stands out in your mind at the convention center?
Okay, but maybe before I answer that, one of the things that we are very mindful of is the regulations.
Yeah.
The regulations are saying 250 packs at the moment, and if that doesn't change, whatever we have in the pipeline with large numbers is null and void. And
a very small jazz festival. Very small.
And not only that, I mean, we know Europe is experiencing a rise again, a second wave, and a lot of our organizers and associations are coming from that space. And as we engage with them on a regular basis, they are very concerned, because one of the things, especially in the UK, when people go back, they need to quarantine for 14 days. And and then decisions about coming to conferences are based on that. I mean, we've got World Travel Market is being marketed all over, coming soon, and that attracts over 20,000 people. Will it happen? Will it not happen? As I said, there's quite a number of these events that we have in our books, but with the regulations and what is happening, it's quite...
It's a tough one. No easy answer, and no quick fix to this problem. Alderman Vos, as part of the leadership overseeing, and some of the previous speakers have spoken about the close collaboration between either city, provincial government, and entities and businesses. But what kept you? What kept the mayor, the people running the city? What kept you up throughout this challenge? Because you obviously were needing to juggle many balls simultaneously to keep this juggernaut afloat.
Yes, Aidan, it was I think it's the uncertainty at the time. So it was important for us to immediately respond with appropriate measures to deal with the health and social response, but also to balance the impact on the city's economy. So I'm very mindful of our economic geography and putting all these many moving components together so that we could get businesses back to business. And specifically the city's stake within the Cape Town International Convention Centre as a shareholder. It was important for us to see how we could quickly adapt, use hotels, convention centres, and all other important tourism infrastructure as part of our health response. Mention was made about how quickly we could deal with the impact on the business process outsourcing sector, which currently employs about 60,000 people in our city. And so it was an important response for us to ensure that we could keep those call centres operational and to make sure that in cases where the regulations did not allow for them to work within office spaces, that we could put some of them in hotels and working remotely. And so it was how quickly we could respond to make sure that those key sectors were still operational so that we could avoid any layoffs or closure, etc. And also the adaptation in terms of the modes of transport, because then we had to quickly respond to how could we get people back home safely and get our own citizens to return home. So it was all those moving components that we quickly had to deal with to make sure that we respond responsively and responsibly. And also in terms of the business bleeding scenario, that is something that we quickly had to also deal with, because as a responsible government, we want to make sure that we could help businesses in terms of their business processes. And so we've rolled out two very important programs. The one is the Business in Distress program, where we've partnered with Productivity SA to go and help put the pieces together so that we can avoid any further closure or layoffs. And that speaks to all businesses in the city. And the second program was the Business Retention and Expansion program. And certainly the hospitality and tourism businesses were very much part of that initiative, where we had to go and stabilize, contain, and look at alternative measures so that we could, people that were in the hospitality sector, that we could quickly move them into call center industry, just to ensure that there's that steady skills pipeline. And of course, now as we look at the supply and demand dynamics in Cape Town, it's now more than ever responsible for us to put measures in place to deal with those critical skill shortages. And so we have got a couple of programs that will be commenced now to focus on the marine manufacturing, hospitality, clothing and textile, technology, because those are the critical components of our city's economic geography, to put skilled workers into those tradable sectors, and also to ensure that we can then compete, because at the end of the day, tourism is a very competitive space. And I always look at the industries that make up the tourism industry. So tourism is a very abstract notion, but it's about events, accommodation, food and beverage, transportation, places of attraction and experiences. These are the sectors that we are very much involved with, so that we can get those sectors back to business. And of course, to deal with the post-COVID economic equilibrium. What's going to happen in the future? We talk about the next normal, and so we've got economic recovery plans for our CBDs, so that we can get more footfall into our CBDs. Let's stimulate the pavement economy in Cape Town. Let's be much more flexible on our regulations. And so my department is running a couple of programs now around the regulatory stuff, so that we can be more flexible, allow companies and businesses to expand into open spaces, because that's where you bring in the vibrancy in your CBDs. So I think it was an important lesson for us. I think Cape Town is a very resilient city. I think the drought has really given us an important measure of confidence going forward, so that we can deal with the shocks and trends that will come our way. And I think as a city, we've done fairly well in terms of managing the health and social response. Now our key focus is around the economy and focusing on those key catalytic sectors, those tradable sectors, which will give us the best return on investment in terms of jobs, and also to do much more product development. I mean, a lot of people in the audience here deal with services and goods, whether it's a pipeline into the hospitality sector or any other sector, so that we can connect Cape Town product with the world market, so that we can start exporting more. And that's why connectivity for me is of a critical importance. How do we connect Cape Town companies with world markets, new emerging markets that will come our way, existing, so that we can just open up those connections so that there are more bums on seats as more passengers will come into our city and enjoy what's available, but also boxes in the belly as we start exporting more proudly Cape Town products and services to the world market. So those are the things that my department and the City of Cape Town are involved with, and it's obviously a collaboration. We can't do it alone. So we work very closely with FEDHASA, the hospitality sector, and all the other key stakeholders in the industry to make sure that we get it right, because bounce back we will, and we'll come much more stronger out of this. I think it's, you spoke about the pause button at the beginning, but it's also the reset button. Because in many instances we've now come together as an industry, doing things differently, using our spaces differently, thinking about the demand that will make business sense. And that's what excites me about the future. But of course, being very mindful that a lot of businesses went through difficult times, and I think those programs that my department is actively involved with, and also the small business program, where we provide help to small businesses on smart procurement and supply development, because those are the type of things that we need to focus on now, so we can get those businesses back to business and to just protect livelihoods in our city. So it's an optimistic excitement, but one must take the key lessons out of this moment in time. And I just want to thank all the partners. I think listening to everyone here today, I think the whole industry has done a marvelous job. And I think now we'll really plot the way forward, or as the theme says, back to the future. So it's great. Yeah, thanks, Aidan.
Oh, top class. I actually had another question for the Alderman, but I forgot how comprehensive his answers are. So we'll move on. We'll move on to Brett just very quickly. No. It's fine. It's been a rough ride for you as chairperson. You know, you came in here towards the end of last year. Obviously, all the plans and ideas that you were hoping to almost help oversee during this tenure, and then 2020 happened. You know, just talk to me about what that's been like. I mean, and at the same time, you've got a day job, so you've got your focus there, but also you've got the industry's issues at heart.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, because our business is tourism aligned, you know, we were dealing with the same issues. But I think, you know, if I was to tackle from a business point of view, if you were, and this probably speaks to whether you're a big or small business, you were generating income and all of a sudden, just like that, you know, normally in business, you start seeing the signs and you can start doing things. And unfortunately, you didn't have the time because tourism just stopped. So your focus was all about cost cutting, cash management, and those type of things, which is tough on all businesses. And if you didn't have reserves, you didn't survive. And that's what we've seen, and it's such a shame. But unfortunately, you know, it's happened, and there's going to be you know, when I guess once we start coming out of this, we're going to see those who have survived, and those that have fallen by the wayside. But you know, it's the opportunity to rebuild it. I think from a Cape Town tourism point of view, and the job and the role I guess we played in that space was really about, it was mainly in terms of looking at the interest of the industry. And there we looked at, obviously, when we look at our industry, the pains that everybody was going through, whether it was, you know, when the president stood up in, I think it was towards the end of April, and he brought out the risk levels, we saw tourism was at level 1. So effectively, tourism was only supposed to come, when was it, September this year. And industry fought hard, and a lot of things has to go to Tebe, what's the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, through the leadership of Chafiwe and his team and the board members there, who really lobbied government in a big way, and we saw tourism in some way coming back, you know, earlier under level 3 and to a certain extent under level 4. Borders are open, but we, you know, and if we think what government was saying in the beginning, international travel will only come back in February next year. Those are achievements. We're not seeing the benefits of it yet. So I think that continuing lobbying on behalf of the industry has helped. But I think what we did as Cape Town Tourism already, I think it was in May, was to do scenario planning in terms of looking at the next 18 months, looking at the potential red flags that would, and I think if I go back to that blueprint, we've kind of almost nailed a few of them, and there's still further hard work to do. But we have to continue. This is going to be a long road. It's going to be a long road to recovery. But we're going to bounce back, and I think we have a beautiful country. We have a beautiful city, and people want to travel here. We also need to make sure that, while people want to travel here, we're going to make it safe. And I think, WTC, the World Tourism and Travel Organization, has given us the safe accreditation, and we must leverage on that and let the world know. We need to show that this, I think we've done very well as a city in terms of ensuring that we get through this pandemic. We need to manage this. Everybody's talking about the second wave. And when the markets open and we need to be the number one choice. And let's aim and focus there, because we need it. We know tourism is a significant contributor to the economy in terms of jobs, and we need to continue growing that.
All right. I think at that point, I'm going to thank our panelists. A round of applause, please, for all of them. Thank you very much for joining us up front. So I've sort of got good news. We're almost at the point where we're going to eat. I'm from Mitchell's Plain. We can't do anything on an empty stomach. It's vitally important that we put something in our stomachs. I'm going to prime that activity by introducing you to the next thing. And I want to ask for you, please, just to follow on the screen in a bit. But let me tell you a bit about Township to Terroir. There was a masterclass demonstration that I would love for you to be part of. Now, as part of this refreshed narrative that Cape Town Tourism is talking about connecting heritage with contemporary, old with new, wine with food, Ikasi with well-known tourism spaces. This is really sort of pioneering a new approach to things. And Cape Town Tourism have really taken this one back to the future with Township to Terroir, French word meaning from the earth or from the soil, with this masterclass. And here they've paired two concepts, creating one experience. And I'm going to ask for just the next few minutes that you turn your attention to the screen or follow on your devices as we take you through a quick masterclass.
Hey, Layla.
Hi, Abby.
We get to do this again.
And what a privilege it is to bring from Khayelitsha to Constantia all the way to Cape Town Tourism AGM.
Amazing. What a great opportunity that we get to do this Ikasi to Winelands experience, bringing the two different cultures, the old heritage with the new Ikasi business. And we've done some great work together here.
So tell us a little bit about what we're going to pair today. So I can see some krummelpap. I can call it that.
Oh, yes, you can call it krummelpap. I mean, this is one of South Africa's basic staple, pap and milk. It's called different words in different parts. The Xhosa culture actually calls it umvubo, which is a mix of the krummel with amasi. So this is usually served with amasi or milk. I know some parts will actually have it of the country where they have it with a bit of sugar and milk. So what I've done, I've taken our basic staples and I looked at a way, how do we take South Africa's basic dishes and elevate the flavors to meet the 21st century palate. So this dish here, it's a krummelpap, toasted a bit, dash of coconut milk and coriander. So with this dish, put a layer of other flavors by adding layers of citrus segments to it to elevate the flavor.
Beautiful. The citrus segments are going to go exceptionally well with the 2020 Groot Constantia Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, wow.
The natural acidity on the nose is really going to enhance those amazing citrus notes coming out. May I pour us?
Oh, yes, please. So while you're pouring, I'm actually going to complete my plating of the krummelpap by adding some edible flowers. In this case, I have used nasturtium flowers that have got this lovely peppery flavor. And with this peppery flavor, it also adds to the layers of the different layers that we already have in this dish. And again, adding those citrus segments while Laila is busy checking on her wine. I can't wait to actually see what we had conjured up here. And I know we've tried this, we've tested it before. It's beautiful, it's amazing, it's fresh. So that is our dish of the crumble pap, and of which now we're gonna serve with a blend of amasi mixed with a little bit of coconut milk.
So do you mix the coconut milk to make it a little bit lighter, a little bit creamier?
Yes, again adding, because it's layers of flavors, adding to this with the coconut milk blended with amasi, it brings a bit of exotic flavors to the entire dish.
Oh,
and I can
beautiful.
just imagine what will that do with the blend,
So there we
with
go.
the pairing.
So it's going to pair beautifully well with the nose of the wine as
Oh,
well.
beautiful.
Which has this unbelievable tropical nose. A little bit of guava and then hints of lemon. Paired perfectly with the amazi and pap.
Exactly. Crumble pap and milk.
Crumble pap and milk.
So we're doing 2 course here that will be paired with Groot Constantia beautiful wines. So we'll be now going into our second dish, and we'll get the guests to actually enjoy these 2 courses with us.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers. Hey, Laila. Okay.
Welcome back.
Our second dish here.
It's the fisherman's story, right?
Indeed.
Please share with us the fisherman's story.
All right. Okay. So this dish is actually inspired by my childhood memories. Growing up in Guguletu, we had fishermen coming through with the buggy selling fish, and as a kid, we will be sent off to go and find out where the buggy is. So the best way to actually find out is to follow the trail of the ice droplings on the street.
I think this is a Cape Town story as well. I mean, I used to do the same growing up.
Amazing. You're kidding. Right. So actually makes sense of about what I came up with here, because with this dish, this fish, which I used smoked trout.
Okay.
It's actually going very well with the butter sauce.
Oh,
and this will be also accompanied by cornbread. So I've went with the butter sauce because it's got those Cape Malay curry flavors in it, and the base is actually a coconut cream with this dish.
That's going to pair perfectly with the Groot Constantia 2018 Chardonnay.
Nice.
It has the richness of that butter sauce will cut immensely through the taste of the Chardonnay.
Amazing, amazing.
Can I pour for us?
Oh, yes, please. So while you're pouring, actually what I would do is finish this dish, which I have gone again to look for back to our roots, speckworm, which is one of our edible indigenous plants, quite healthy. So the tartiness of the speckworm and this butter sauce actually cuts through beautifully. And then garnish this with some micro herbs. And I'm sure with the speckworm, the creaminess of this,
it's going to pair beautifully with the Groot Constantia Chardonnay, especially on the nose. You're going to get a hint of orange blossom, a little bit of lemon, some of the herbs coming through, and the creaminess long after finish will really pair well with that dish.
Amazing, amazing.
So thank you, Abby, for sharing this journey with us all the way.
From Mekasi
all the way through to Constantia, and to share this journey with you at the Cape Town Tourism AGM.
Cheers.
All right, we're almost at that point to eat and drink that fabulous stuff that was on display. So at each of the venues, this venue, the live event at the Century City Conference Center, also out at the venue in Khayelitsha and the one in Constantia, all of these will be available in just a couple of moments. We're just getting our catering staff to sort that out. Maybe if you are at home watching on your phone, depending on what kind of phone you have, they say sometimes if you just lick the screen, you can almost imagine the taste of the Chardonnay. Sorry? Okay, so let's just go and have one final look just very quickly, and then I'll come back up in a sec. And I figured another video, and then we must eat even later, so we just canceled the video and we're moving on. We'll have the food really soon, so that's the plan. There are a couple of things that we need to go through. One is functional and administrative by nature, and then there are a couple that are celebratory by nature, and then we'll release you from the formal part of the AGM, and well, particularly at the live venues, we'd love for you please just to stay and to mingle in as safe a way as possible. And those of you who have joined on the various platforms, we'll thank you for your attendance at that point. But at this stage, I'm going to call forward Michael Evans is a partner and head of public law at Weber Wenzel. We've got a couple of resolutions that have been adopted, and also you might have heard a little bit earlier Brett Hendricks thanking the outgoing board members, just the announcement of who will be replacing them at board level. So Mike, I leave that duty to you, sir.
Thank you, Aidan, and greetings to everybody here and throughout Cape Town and in your homes as well. I think this is my 15th AGM. I was at the founding one, and then 15 out of 16 after that, and this is so different from all the rest, and it is obviously a reflection of the very tough times that you've all been through. My profession has not been hit as hard as yours, and I really, my sympathies are with this entire profession, which has been so ravaged. But at the same time, I've been so excited sitting here and watching the people on the platform, watching the chair and the CEO speak, and looking creatively at solutions and options and an optimism about the potential growth of this industry. And I feel that optimism as well from my side. So there's only one resolution today. I think this, again, of all the AGMs that we've had, I think this is the first one ever that there hasn't been an increase in the membership fees, and that's completely understandable. But I think a lot of credit must go to the board for making that decision. So the only resolution we had was the reappointment of the auditors, and they've done a very good job over the past year. And we have already had that resolution passed by you as members. And BDO Cape Town are again appointed as the auditors of this organization, and we thank them as well for the role that they've played over the past year, and thank them too in anticipation of the role that they will play over the course of the next year. So that's the first resolution which was passed. This is the first AGM where we're not voting or taking decisions. I'm normally looking for raised hands and all that sort of thing. But the second one, and I'll go to quickly because I know you want to eat and drink. But we had 4 candidates for election to the board, which was very encouraging in these difficult times that people came forward. If you remember last year, we only had 3 candidates for 3 positions, so there was no real election. Now we have got a real election. There were 4 candidates. I looked this afternoon at the videos of all 4, and I must say I thought they were extremely impressive, and I think we must give a round of applause to all 4 candidates who have stood and put themselves forward for potential election to this board. So if we can give them a round of applause. Those 4 were Wahida Parker, Janice Davids, Mark Jacobs, and Alison Coughlin. And in my normal sort of Oscar style, I open the envelope with the outcome of the election. The elections the voting happened and closed yesterday, and we have 2 new people on the board, and those are, well, one's not new, and that's Wahida Parker coming back onto the board, and the second is Alison Coughlin, who's the second person onto the board, new person onto the board. So very warm congratulations both to Wahida and to Alison. And I know that you'll each make a big and very distinctive contribution to that board. So good luck to you and to the rest of the board as you meet the challenges of the next year. Thanks very much to all of you.
Top class. All right, there. If we can get Wahida and Alison just to come up, if we can make it formal with a photograph, if they're both with us. All right, Alison, Wahida. And then I'll get some of the Cape Town tourism office bearers to join. But if we can get Robin, where do you need them? Just in the middle. So if I can have the 2 new board members. Thanks there to Michael Evans. I mean, you heard from him, even when the world is shutting down, the lawyers, the only people still making money. There we are. Oh, don't confuse the masks. All right, if I can get Brett, if you can join Inver Dumini, and if I can get Alderman James Voss. If we can just get them up for a quick picture. Wow. All right, make it all official. Excellent. Thank you very much. Those then the new board members, and we wish them well during their tenure. One final thing, and then we'll call it to a close. We have some awards we need to be dishing out. The one would be the Board Development Fund recipients, and there are 2 of those. But let's start with the Chairman's Award for social impact. And just simply put, this award recognizes a member, so a member of Cape Town Tourism who's gone over and above to adapt the business, product or service in order to improve the lives of or to create opportunities for Cape Town's communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. This award aims to celebrate how tourism can be a force for good when local communities are empowered and benefits are shared. I'm going to announce the name of the winner, because by way of just explaining how the decision was made, I think you'd have figured out which the business is anyway. So it gives me great pleasure at this point to announce the winner, and I'm going to ask the winner please to step forward. Theo Makapela from African Authentic Experience. If you can make your way up. Theo Makapela. Let me tell you a little bit about the motivation for the winning business. Kailicha, desperate, as you can understand, for food. Money had run dry, and Theo and his company started a community feeding scheme which focused on feeding people for just, all right, already with the selfies, for just a couple of days a week. They roped in all of their partners, their loyal clients and community members to supply food and essential item parcels to the most vulnerable in their community. Theo was asked to present his business pivot, because that's what it was, to the Cape Chamber of Commerce. Well done, Theo. The feeding scheme that they ran then started gaining traction on the various City of Cape Town social media platforms, and they repurposed their business twofold. In addition to the feeding scheme they were involved in, they also started up a bread supply with door-to-door delivery of loaves of bread within the community for a minimal markup. It's the kind of thinking that Brett had spoken about earlier, just finding new ways of generating a bit of an income. So they still were able to generate a bit of an income while at the same time helping a community that was really, really in need. And they created employment for their network of agents who distributed the bread. Let's have a look at a quick video. So, it's all fair and well me explaining it, but let's see this business pivot in action. And I suppose it's what we do as an expression of our humanity when tourism grinds to a halt. It's that sense of humanity that shines on through, and you remain of service to those around you. Another shining example of that philosophy in action. So that was the Chairman's Award for Social Impact. There are 2 recipients of the Board Development Fund. Now, the way this one works is the Cape Town Tourism Board some 5 years ago decided to forfeit their collective board remuneration. It's one of the benefits of being on a board, they pay you. Except this board decided, well, actually what we'll do is we'll give that money back to the organization and to share it with deserving SMMEs within tourism, where that money would then be used to help bolster the various fund winners. Worthy recipients are not only given a cash injection of 50,000 Rand for their business, and any small business, particularly in the existing climate, you don't need me to tell you how a cash injection like that is able to assist you, but also to receive special mentorship and marketing support from the team and the management team, no less, of Cape Town Tourism, each of whom has managed to cut his or her teeth in various fields. Now, previous beneficiaries: Ubizo Tours and Events, Maboneng Township Arts Experience, Lungi's B&B, Turning Point Guest House, Forum Dikasi Culture, who today are hosting one of our off-site events, ABCD Concepts, African Authentic Experience. We had them up, and look what they've gone and done and how they've been of service. T's and G's, and then 7 Colors Eatery. And it's the mentorship along with the financial boost that I think is going to see these businesses flourish even in these very trying times. We'd like to call now to the stage this year's Deserving Board Development Fund recipients. They've got to come up and receive not only the accolade for having been nominated and awarded, but also a beautiful check. I saw them a little bit earlier. I mean, these are quite something. So I'm going to call forward, and if you can please step up on the stage. Lizanne Gomes from Jeeps Tours Cape Town. There we are. Hello. All right, she's buying drinks. She's got 50K. That's fantastic. Another round of applause for Lizanne and the team at Jeep Tours Cape Town. Give that to me. All right. That's what the media do. They take a picture of a moment that never happened. That's it. Happy? All right. There we are, Lizanne. Thank you. And there's your bag. Fantastic. All right, that's Lizanne Gomes from Jeep Tours Cape Town. There's one more winner. And let's call forward Nicoline Mhlanganyeli from Igojani Authentic Cultural Adventures. Nicoline, are you with us? All right. I had no idea Nicoline was 2 people, but come. Nico and Lean, there they are. Okay. If we knew there were 2, we'd have made 2 25,000 Rand checks. All right. Okay. Excellent. Another round of applause Igunjani Authentic Cultural Adventures. Those then are 2 Board Development Fund recipients, and I'm going to thank the Alderman, and thank you also then to the Chairperson of Cape Town Tourism. While we are busy with thanks, there are just a number of sponsors that we need to thank, and we'll do that in a moment. But just to do a more official word of thanks, I'm going to call forward Gary Kutsu, who's the CEO of the Century City Conference Centre. There is a man who has a very busy portfolio, but like you, is also trying just to drum up business in very trying times. Gary, all yours, sir.
Evening, everybody. It's really great to see so many familiar faces from our industry here, and to be hosting events again. I think one of the many lessons that we've learned over the last couple of months is to be thankful and to appreciate. So often in the past, when things are going well, we often forgot to say thank you to people that are attending our events, people that are booking our venues, people that are booking our hotels, people that are staying in our hotels. And so on that note, to Enver and your team, thank you for selecting us to host your event here. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And I think it's times like these as well that you realize just how important these industry bodies are. Again, when things are going well, you very quickly forget about everybody working in the background, promoting Cape Town, promoting the Western Cape. And so to the support we've received from Cape Town Tourism, from Alderman Vos, yourself and your team, from Westgrove, from Saki, Fedhauser, has really been unbelievable. We really do appreciate it. The other lesson, just walking up here, I thought about it, was the small wins, and every time we see Deirdre's here from AXA, we see planes landing these days. It's a celebration, and walking up here, some other bit of good news. I see England Cricket has just confirmed that they're coming to Cape Town. They are playing all their games here in November and December, 3 test matches, 3 one-day games and 3 T20s. So, yes, on that note, thank you, and enjoy the evening with us in the foyer afterwards. For those of you that are here, for those of you that are not, sitting at home watching, hopefully next time we'll all be together and gathered in a room face to face, which I think is exactly what we all really want as part of the next normal. Thank you.
And I think that is the challenge. What is the world going to look like the next time we gather for an AGM? It was a very different place 12 months ago when this event happened. This is, I suppose, the temporary normal. What is that next normal going to look like? How do we gather? In which form is this meeting then going to be? Some interesting and some trying times that lie ahead. It's a massive well done and a big thank you for the dedication, the enthusiasm of Cape Town. It's people, it's visitors, you know, as we move into recovery and as these redevelopment plans, these rebuilding, these pivot plans, these bounce back plans all kick into gear. We're excited about what lies ahead. I think this evening served as perhaps something that could whet our appetites, not only about the challenge that lies ahead, but what needs to happen for us to be able to regain what perhaps was on the horizon for us as a tourism destination going forward. We'll slowly inch back to where we were a year ago. We'll get there, and then we'll surpass it in time to come. Perhaps maybe not as quickly as we'd like, but we'd get there as we welcome future travelers who take all of our relevant tourism products and offerings back to the future. Today, and this AGM wouldn't be possible without the support, and I think you can see it up on the display there, Forum Dikasi Culture. Our thanks to them, Groot Constantia. And these are the venues where we are hosting off-site delegates who are, for obvious reasons, not able to be in the room with us. Century City, well, they say virtual conference center, but I think Gary and his team are thrilled to bits that it's now an actual conference center again, and as proof of that, I'm going to ask this audience just to clap their hands quickly. And let's join, please, the audience at Groot Constantia and Forum Dikasi Culture, Arinkaya Licha. Thank you very much on behalf of the board and the management team of Cape Town Tourism. Thanks so much for coming out today. It's so vitally important that we reclaim in small ways, just that normal that for so long has now been deprived of us. We gather safely, we maintain the social distancing as we're seeing it at this venue and the other venues where we're hosting the off-site AGM. We're gathering safely, and we do so in the hopes that this will help kickstart the tourism sector in an even bigger way. So looking forward to seeing you in a year's time, and hopefully, touch wood, we'll gather under completely different and celebratory circumstances. To those who are at either this live venue or our off-site venues, please, in the foyer, some of the offering we'd seen up on the screen a little bit earlier. For those of you who were unable to join at either of those venues, thank you, though, for your virtual attendance. And once again, thanks for coming out this evening. Please drive safely if it is that you are going to be traveling, and we look forward to seeing you again really soon.